Park Doan was not supposed to be here. He was supposed to be fixing broken pipes on Deck 7, not standing in a room full of aliens wearing clothes that cost more than his entire year's salary. But here he was, sweating through his formal uniform, wondering how his life had gone so wrong so quickly. It all started with a clerical error. Someone in the Human Federation's database had confused maintenance technician with cultural expert. Dohan had tried to explain the mistake, but by the time anyone listened, he was already aboard the diplomatic vessel Starfall, orbiting a planet called Valoria, and there was no going back. The Valorians were humanity's potential allies. They controlled half of the known galaxy and had technology that made human ships look like toys. They also looked almost human, except for their silver blue skin and eyes that seemed to glow with soft light. They were beautiful in a way that made Dohan uncomfortable, like looking at a painting that was too perfect to be real. And the most beautiful of them all was Princess Yuna. She stood at the center of the diplomatic hall, surrounded by advisors and guards. Her silver hair fell past her shoulders like water, and her eyes were the color of a winter sky just before sunset. She wore a dress that seemed to be made of liquid starlight, and when she moved, it rippled like the surface of a calm lake. Duhan wanted to disappear. "You must be the human cultural expert," said a voice beside him. Dohan turned to find a tall Valorian male looking down at him with obvious doubt. "I am Advisor Hansu. I will be translating for the princess during formal events." "Nice to meet you," Dohan managed to say. His voice came out higher than he intended. Hansu's glowing eyes narrowed. "The princess has many questions about human customs. I hope you are prepared to answer them." Dohan was not prepared. He was an engineer. He knew how to fix oxygen filters and repair navigation systems. He did not know how to explain human culture to alien royalty. But before he could confess his complete lack of qualifications, a hush fell over the room. The crowd parted and Princess Yuna walked toward him. Dohan's heart stopped. Then it started again, much too fast. "You are Park Doan?" the princess asked. Her voice was soft but clear, like bells ringing in the distance. "Yes," Doan said. Then he remembered he was supposed to be formal. "I mean, yes, Your Highness, Princess, Your Royal Highness Princess." Someone behind him coughed. It might have been a laugh. Princess Yuna tilted her head slightly, studying him with those impossible eyes. "I have read much about humans," she said. "Your species is fascinating. You feel emotions more strongly than any other race we have encountered." Dohan nodded, unsure what to say. "I can sense emotions," Yuna continued. "It is a gift my people possess. Right now, I sense that you are very nervous." "That's accurate," Dohan admitted. "Why?" she asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. "Are you afraid of me?" Dohan's brain screamed at him to lie, to say something diplomatic and smooth. Instead, his mouth betrayed him completely. "Yes, very much." The room went silent. Hansu looked like he wanted to throw Dawn out an airlock. But Princess Yuna did something unexpected. She smiled. "Honesty," she said. "How refreshing. Most beings who speak to me only say what they think I want to hear." She gestured to the space beside her. "Walk with me, Park Doan. Tell me about your people." And so began the strangest day of Dohan's life. They walked through the diplomatic gardens, an artificial paradise created to simulate the forests of Valoria. Silver trees with purple leaves stretched toward a ceiling painted to look like an alien sky. Small creatures that looked like glowing butterflies drifted through the air. Yuna asked questions, and Doan answered as best he could. She wanted to know about human music, human food, human relationships. She was especially interested in human emotions. "Your species has a concept called embarrassment," she said. "I have read about it, but I do not fully understand." Dohan laughed nervously. You're looking at a perfect example of it right now. Explain it to me, she said. Do-Han thought for a moment. It's when you feel uncomfortable because you did something foolish in front of others. Or when people pay attention to you in a way that makes you want to hide. But why would you want to hide? Yuna asked. Attention is a gift. It means others find you worthy of notice. Humans don't always see it that way, Do-Han said. Sometimes attention feels like a spotlight showing all your flaws. Yuna considered this. Your species is strange, she said finally. But I think I like that strangeness. The day continued with formal meetings where Do-Han somehow managed not to cause an interstellar incident. He did, however, accidentally refer to the Valorian sacred greeting ritual as a fancy high five, which made Hansu choke on his drink and caused several elderly advisors to stare at him in horror. Princess Yuna just laughed. That wind chime laugh that made Do-Han's chest feel tight. By the end of the day, Do-Han was exhausted. His brain hurt from trying to be smart and diplomatic. His face hurt from smiling politely. His heart hurt from being near someone so beautiful and knowing. He was just a maintenance worker, pretending to be something he was not. He was shown to his quarters, a small but comfortable room with a bed, a desk, and a window showing the stars outside. Your room is adjacent to the princess's chambers, Hansu informed him stiffly. For diplomatic proximity, the Emperor believes close contact between our peoples will strengthen our alliance. Do-Han nodded, too tired to point out that this seemed like a terrible idea. After Hansu left, Do-Han collapsed onto his bed. He stared at the ceiling for a long time, thinking about the day, thinking about the princess, thinking about how badly he was going to mess everything up. He thought about her eyes, the way they seemed to see right through him. He thought about her smile, rare and precious. He thought about her laugh and how it made him forget to breathe. This is bad, he said to the empty room. This is very, very bad. But tiredness won over worry, and slowly, Do-Han drifted off to sleep. What he did not know was that Valorians had another gift beyond sensing emotions. They could perceive dreams if they were close enough. And his room shared a wall with the princess's chambers. What he did not know was that his dreams were about to betray him completely. As Do-Han slept, his mind wandered through images and feelings without any filter. He dreamed of the princess, of her silver hair and sky-colored eyes. He dreamed of her voice asking him questions. He dreamed of her laugh. And in the room next door, Princess Yuna lay awake, unable to sleep. She felt something strange coming through the wall, a broadcast of emotion and imagery that was louder than anything she had ever experienced. She closed her eyes and listened, and what she heard made her smile in the darkness. Princess Yuna could not sleep. This was unusual for her. Valorians were known for their disciplined rest cycles, their ability to quiet their minds and drift into peaceful darkness. But tonight, something kept her awake. It was the human. She could feel him through the wall, his emotions swirling like a storm that refused to calm. Even in sleep, Park Do-Han radiated feelings with an intensity that surprised her. Most beings became quiet when they slept, their emotional signatures fading to soft whispers. But this human was different. His sleeping mind was louder than most beings were while awake. Yuna sat up in her bed, curious. She knew she should not listen. Among her people, perceiving another's dreams without permission was considered intimate, almost sacred. It was something done only between family members or bonded partners. To listen to a stranger's dreams was a violation of privacy, but the broadcast was so strong. It pushed through the wall like music played too loud by a neighbor. She could not help but hear it. She closed her eyes and let the images wash over her. Do-Han was dreaming about his day. She saw herself through his eyes, and the perception made her breath catch. In his dream, she was not just beautiful. She was terrifying and wonderful at the same time, like a star that could warm you or burn you, depending on how close you stood. Then, the dream shifted. Do-han was talking to someone, a figure that was blurry and undefined. A friend, perhaps, or maybe just a creation of his sleeping mind. "I made such a fool of myself today," Dream Do-han said to the figure. "Did you see how I called their greeting ritual a fancy high five? A high five. I might have started a war." The figure said something Yuna could not hear. "Yes, I know I'm an idiot," Dream Do-han continued. "But did you see her? The princess? She's terrifying, but also, I don't know how to explain it. Beautiful doesn't seem like a big enough word." Yuna felt her cheeks warm. She should stop listening. This was private, but she did not stop. The way she tilted her head when she asked about human music, Dream Do-han said. "I almost forgot how to breathe. I just stood there with my mouth open like a fish. A stupid human fish." The blurry figure seemed to respond. "A laugh," Dream Do-han said, and his voice in the dream became softer. "A laugh sounds like wind chimes. Is that weird to say?" "That's probably weird." "I'm weird." Yuna pressed her hand to her mouth to stop herself from laughing out loud. "I hope she doesn't think I'm a complete idiot," the dream continued. "I mean, I am an idiot, but I hope she doesn't realize it too quickly. Maybe if I can pretend to be smart for a few more days." The dream shifted again. Now Do-han was alone, standing in a field of silver grass under purple skies. The landscape was clearly his imagination's attempt to recreate the Valorian gardens. He had gotten some details wrong. The trees were the wrong shape, and the sky had too many colors. But somehow, that made it more beautiful. In the dream, Princess Yuna appeared before him. She was even more radiant than in real life, glowing with inner light. Dream Do-han stared at her, frozen. "Princess Yuna," he said in the dream. You're so. He never finished the sentence. The words dissolved into feelings, a mixture of admiration and fear and something else that Yuna recognized but could not quite name. Then, in the real world, Do-han mumbled in his sleep. His voice was muffled through the wall, but she could hear him clearly enough. "Princess Yuna, you're so." She waited for him to finish. "Scary," he mumbled. "Scary and pretty. Scary, pretty. That's not a real word. New word. Scary, pretty." Yuna could not hold back anymore. She laughed, covering her face with her pillow to muffle the sound. Her shoulders shook with the effort of staying quiet. This human was impossible. His mind had no filters, no walls, no protection at all. Everything he felt spilled out of him like water from an overflowing cup. It was messy and chaotic, and completely different from anything she had ever experienced. It was wonderful. Among her people, emotions were controlled. Children were taught from birth to manage their inner worlds, to keep their feelings contained and measured. Public displays of strong emotion were considered inappropriate. A Valorian should be calm, collected, graceful at all times, but this human dreamed in colors so bright they almost hurt to perceive. He felt everything at maximum intensity, with no attempt to hold anything back. His embarrassment was crushing. His admiration was overwhelming. His fear was paralyzing. And yet he had stood before her today and answered her questions, even though every cell in his body was screaming at him to run away. That, Yuna realized, was courage, not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. To stand in front of someone who terrified you and tell them the truth. To admit your weaknesses instead of hiding them. Humans were strange creatures. But perhaps they were stronger than anyone gave them credit for. The dream continued. Do-han was now imagining a conversation with her, practicing things he wished he had said during their actual meeting. "Yes, Your Highness. I would be happy to explain human music, Dream Doan said, in a voice much smoother than his real one. You see, we use sound to express emotions that words cannot capture. It is like painting with noise. Yuna smiled. That was actually a lovely description. And human food, Dream Doan continued, clearly warming to his imaginary lecture. We do not just eat for nutrition. We eat for pleasure, for comfort, for connection. Sharing a meal with someone is like sharing a small piece of your life. He was much more eloquent in his dreams than in real life. Yuna wondered if this was what he was actually like underneath all his nervousness. Maybe the real Park Doan was buried under layers of fear and self-doubt. Waiting for a chance to emerge, the dream shifted one more time. Now Do-hung was back in the diplomatic hall, surrounded by Valorian nobles. But in this version of events, he was not nervous at all. He walked with confidence, spoke with wit, charmed everyone around him. And Dream Yuna was watching him with obvious interest. Perhaps I misjudged you, Park Doan, Dream Yuna said. You are not an idiot at all. Thank you, Your Highness, Dream Doan replied smoothly. I can tame multitudes. Real, Yuna laughed again. The arrogance of that dream version was hilarious compared to the stammering mess she had met today, but then the dream cracked. Reality seeped in. Dream Doan looked down at himself and realized he was wearing his old maintenance uniform, covered in grease stains. Wait, he said. This isn't right. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm just a pipe fixer. I don't know anything about culture. The dream nobles began to laugh at him. Dream Yuna's expression changed from interest to disappointment. You lied to us, Dream Yuna said. You are nothing but a fraud. Dream Doan tried to speak, to explain, but no words came out. The dream dissolved into anxiety and shame, into a desperate feeling of not being good enough. Yuna's amusement faded. She felt the weight of his insecurity, the depth of his fear that he would be discovered and rejected. It was not just embarrassment. It was something deeper. A belief buried in his core that he was not worthy. She withdrew from the dream, pulling back her perception until the broadcast was just a distant hum. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what she had witnessed. This human, Park Doan, was afraid of her. But not because she was dangerous or powerful. He was afraid because he thought she was too good for him. He was afraid that once she saw the real him, she would be disappointed. What a strange fear, Yuna thought. To be more afraid of disappointing someone than of anything else. She made a decision. Tomorrow she would test him. She would drop hints about what she had heard, see how he reacted. Would he crumble under the embarrassment? Would he run away? Or would he do what he had done today in the hall, stand before her and tell her the truth even though it terrified him? Yuna smiled in the darkness. For the first time in a long while, she was looking forward to tomorrow. And somewhere on the other side of the wall, Park Do-hong continued to dream, completely unaware that his secrets had already been heard by the one person he most wanted to impress. The morning came too quickly for Do-hong. He woke up with the vague memory of strange dreams, though the details slipped away like water through his fingers. He remembered something about the princess, something embarrassing, but he could not recall what exactly, probably for the best. He thought as he got dressed. The diplomatic schedule was packed with meetings and formal events. But there was a break period around midday when delegates were free to wander the gardens and socialize. Do-hong planned to spend that time hiding in his room, reviewing notes on Valorian culture, so he could be less embarrassing in the afternoon sessions. That plan lasted exactly 1 hour. He was walking through the garden, taking a shortcut to his quarters when he saw her. Princess Yuna was sitting alone on a bench beneath a silver tree, looking at a small device in her hands. She looked up as he approached, and her eyes met his. Do-hong froze. His legs refused to move in any direction. He was trapped in the middle of the path, unable to advance or retreat, like a small animal caught in bright lights. "Pardon," she said. "What a coincidence." It did not sound like a coincidence. "Your Highness," Dohan managed to say. "I was just walking to somewhere. A place. Brilliant," his brain screamed at him. Truly brilliant communication. "Come sit with me," Yuna said. It was phrased like an invitation, but felt like a command. Dohan's legs finally remembered how to work. He walked to the bench and sat down, leaving a respectful distance between them. His heart was beating so loud he was sure she could hear it. "I could not sleep last night," Yuna said casually. "It was strange. The walls on this ship are surprisingly thin for emotional frequencies." Dohan nodded, not understanding what she meant. "Old ship, probably. Budget cuts in construction." Yuna smiled. Someone nearby was dreaming quite loudly. Loud enough that I could hear it through the wall. The color drained from Dohan's face. Then it came rushing back, twice as strong. His cheeks burned like they were on fire. "That's unfortunate," he said. "For the walls. Thin walls. Bad engineering. I should file a complaint." "The dreams were quite vivid," Yuna continued, watching his reaction with obvious amusement. "Something about wind chimes, I believe." Dohan's brain short-circuited. Wind chimes. He had said something about wind chimes in his dream. Something about her laugh. A laugh that sounded like wind chimes. She had heard everything. "I don't know anything about wind chimes," he said quickly. "Never heard of them. Human invention. Very obscure. Probably not even real? Really?" Yuna raised one elegant eyebrow. "Because I am quite certain the dream involved comparing something to wind chimes. Something beautiful and terrifying at the same time." Dohan wanted to melt into the bench. He wanted to evaporate into the air. He wanted to travel back in time and warn his past self to sleep in a soundproof box. "You heard," he said flatly. It was not a question. "I heard," Yuna confirmed. Silence stretched between them. Dohan stared at his hands, unable to look at her. His face felt like it might actually catch fire. "In my culture," Yuna said, "hearing someone's dreams is considered very intimate. It is something done only between close family members or bonded partners. To hear a stranger's dreams is significant." "I'm sorry," Dohan said. "I didn't know. I didn't mean to broadcast whatever I was broadcasting." "Do not apologize," Yuna said. "It was not unpleasant. Surprising, perhaps. Your species dreams with such intensity. Most beings are quiet when they sleep. But you are louder asleep than most people are awake." "That sounds like me," Dohan muttered. "Loud and inappropriate, even when unconscious." Yuna laughed. That wind chime laugh. Dohan felt his chest tighten. "So," she said, "now you know that I know. What will you do?" Dohan took a deep breath. His brain told him to apologize again, to minimize everything, to claim he had no idea what she was talking about. But he was tired of being afraid. He was tired of pretending. "Okay," he said. "Fine. You heard. I'm embarrassed. I might die of embarrassment, actually. But I'm not sorry for what I said." Yuna tilted her head, curious. "Oh, you are terrifying," Dohan said, finally looking at her. "You're powerful and beautiful, and every time you look at me, I forget how to think. Your laugh, those sound like wind chimes. That's not an insult. That's just a fact. And I know I'm not qualified to be here. I'm a pipe fixer pretending to be a diplomat. But I'm doing my best, and if my best isn't good enough, that's too bad." He stopped, breathing hard, surprised by his own words. Yuna stared at him. Her expression was unreadable. You called yourself a pipe fixer? She said slowly. Maintenance technician, Dohan corrected. But yes, there was a clerical error. Someone mixed up my file with someone else's. By the time anyone noticed, I was already here. So you are not a cultural expert at all, not even close. Yuna was silent for a long moment. Dohan waited for the anger, for the disappointment, for her to call the guards and have him removed from the ship. Instead, she started laughing. You lied to us, she said between laughs. You stood before the entire diplomatic delegation and pretended to be something you are not. I tried to explain, Dohan said defensively. Nobody listened. And then I was here, and everyone was staring at me, and I panicked. You called our sacred greeting ritual a fancy high five. It looked like a high five. Yuna laughed harder. She pressed her hand to her stomach, her whole body shaking with amusement. It was the most uncontrolled display of emotion Dohan had ever seen from a Valorian. This is the most entertaining thing that has happened to me in years, she finally said, wiping tears from her eyes. A maintenance technician, pretending to be a cultural expert, dreaming loudly about the princes, and then admitting everything when confronted. You are impossible. I get that a lot, Dohan said. Yuna's laughter faded, but her smile remained. She looked at him differently now, with something that might have been respect. Most beings who speak to me are carefully controlled, she said. They plan every word. They hide their true thoughts behind layers of diplomacy. But you have no filter at all. You say what you think. You dream what you feel. You admit your weaknesses openly. It's not really by choice, Dohan said. I'm just bad at hiding things. That is not a weakness, Yuna said. That is honesty. And honesty is rare, especially in royal courts. She stood up from the bench and looked down at him. I am going to request that you be assigned as my personal cultural liaison for the remainder of this mission, she said. Dohan blinked. What? Why? Because you make me laugh, Yuna said simply. And because I want to understand humans better. Not through books and reports, but through someone who is truly, genuinely human, with all the chaos and embarrassment and loud dreams that comes with it. I'm not sure I'm the best representative of humanity, Dohan said. Perhaps not, Yuna agreed. But you are certainly the most interesting one. She began to walk away, then paused and looked back at him. Oh, and Park Dohan? Yes. Tonight, try to dream more quietly. I need my sleep. She smiled that devastating smile and walked away, leaving Dohan alone on the bench, his face burning and his heart racing. He sat there for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. The princess knew his secret. She knew he was a fraud. And instead of punishing him, she had laughed and asked to spend more time with him. Humans were supposed to be the unpredictable ones, but right now, Dohan felt like he was the one who could not understand anything at all. He looked up at the artificial sky of the garden and let out a long breath. What is happening to my life? He asked the purple clouds. The clouds did not answer. But somewhere in the distance, he thought he heard the sound of wind chimes. 3 weeks passed faster than Dohan expected. True to her word, Princess Yuna had requested him as her personal cultural liaison. The official Valorian advisors were not happy about this, especially Hansu, who looked at Dohan like he was something unpleasant stuck to the bottom of a shoe. But the princess had spoken, and her word was law. Their days fell into a comfortable routine. Mornings were for formal diplomatic meetings, where Dohan sat quietly and tried not to accidentally insult anyone. Afternoons were for private conversations with Yuna, where he taught her about humans and she taught him about Valorians. Evenings were for state dinners and formal events, where Dohan wore uncomfortable clothes and counted the minutes until he could escape. And nights, well, Dohan still dreamed. He tried to sleep quietly, as Yuna had requested, but it was like trying to stop the wind from blowing. His dreams were loud, vivid, and completely uncontrollable. Sometimes, in the mornings, Yuna would mention something from his dreams with a knowing smile. Do-han had stopped being embarrassed about it. There was no point. She had already seen inside his head. What more was there to hide? "Tell me about human music," Yuna said one afternoon. They were walking through the gardens again, which had become their favorite place for conversation. "What do you want to know?" Do-han asked. "Everything. Why do you make sounds for pleasure? What purpose does it serve?" Do-han thought about it. Music is complicated. It's not just sounds. It's feelings turned into something you can hear. When words are not enough, we use music to say what we really mean. Give me an example. Do-han was not a good singer. He knew this. But Yuna was looking at him with genuine curiosity, and he could not refuse her. He cleared his throat and hummed a simple melody. It was a song his mother used to sing to him when he was small, a lullaby about stars and distant homes. He did not remember all the words, but the tune had never left him. When he finished, Yuna was staring at him with wide eyes. "That was beautiful," she said quietly. I felt something through the melody, a sense of longing and comfort at the same time. "That's what music does," Do-han said. "It makes you feel things you didn't know you were feeling." Their lessons continued. Do-han taught Yuna about human food and how sharing a meal was a form of bonding. He taught her about human humor and why people laughed at things that seemed illogical. He taught her about embarrassment and pride and love, all the messy emotions that made humans who they were taught in return. Yuna taught him about Valorian traditions. She explained the dream-weaving ceremonies, where families would share dreams to strengthen their bonds. She described the process of emotional tuning, where young Valorians learned to control their feelings like instruments. And she told him about bonding, how Valorian partners were chosen. "We do not marry for love," she explained. "Not in the human sense. We bond through synchronized dreaming. When two Valorians dream the same dream at the same time, it is a sign that their souls are compatible." "That sounds nice," Do-han said. "More scientific than human romance." "Perhaps," Yuna said. "But I have always wondered what it would be like to choose someone not because your dreams match, but because your heart tells you to." She looked at him when she said it, and Do-han's heart did something complicated in his chest. But not everyone was happy about their growing closeness. A faction within the Valorian court opposed any alliance with humans. They were led by a noble named Lord Kyo, who believed humans were too unstable, too emotional, too dangerous to trust. He watched Do-han and Yuna's interactions with obvious disapproval. "The princess spends too much time with that human," Do-han overheard him saying one day. "She is forgetting her place, forgetting her duty." Do-han tried to ignore it. He was just a maintenance worker from Earth. He had no power in these political games. But then Yuna did something that changed everything. It happened at a formal gathering. Lord Kyo was giving a speech about why the alliance with humans should be rejected. "Humans are unstable," he declared. "Their emotions are uncontrolled. They are dangerous precisely because they cannot predict their own actions. Forming an alliance with such a species would be madness." The crowd murmured in agreement. Do-han shrank in his seat, wishing he could disappear. But then Yuna stood up. "I disagree," she said. Her voice was calm but carried across the entire hall. Lord Kyo looked surprised. "Your Highness? I have spent weeks learning about humans," Yuna said. "I have studied them more closely than anyone in this room. And I can tell you that their chaos is not weakness." She looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of every noble. "Their chaos is passion," she continued. "It is life. They feel everything so deeply that their dreams scream into the void. They love so strongly that they will sacrifice everything for those they care about. They fear and hope and dream with an intensity that we have forgotten how to match. She turned to look at Dawn. That is not instability. That is courage. The courage to feel everything, to hide nothing, to be truly alive in every moment. The hall was silent. Lord Kehoe's face twisted with anger, but he could not argue with the princes in public. Dohan did not know what to say. No one had ever defended him like that. No one had ever seen his weaknesses and called them strengths. After the gathering, Yuna found him in the gardens. He was sitting on their usual bench, staring at the artificial stars. "Thank you," he said. "For what you said?" "I meant every word," Yuna replied. "You have shown me more about humanity in 3 weeks than 1,000 reports ever could." "I'm still just a pipe fixer," Dohan said. "You are more than that," Yuna said softly. "Much more." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the fake stars twinkle above them. 2 days later, everything went wrong. It happened at a celebration dinner. Dohan was standing near the wall, trying to stay out of the way, when he noticed something strange. A servant was moving through the crowd, but something about him was wrong. His movements were too sharp, too purposeful, and he was heading straight for Yuna. Dohan did not think. He did not plan. He just moved. He threw himself between the servant and the princess, just as the man raised a small weapon. The energy blast caught Dohan in the side, spinning him around and dropping him to the ground. Pain exploded through his body. He heard screaming, shouting, the sounds of guards rushing forward. But all he could see was Yuna's face above him, her eyes wide with shock. "You idiot," she said, her voice breaking. "What did you do?" "Told you," Dohan managed to say. His voice was weak, and everything was getting fuzzy. "You're terrifying. Can't let anything happen to you. Why would you do that?" Yuna demanded. Tears were forming in her eyes. Dohan had not known Valorians could cry. "Because," he said, and the darkness started to close in. "Because your laugh sounds like wind chimes, and I want to keep hearing it." He'd passed out to the sound of her voice calling his name. When he woke up, he was in a medical bay. His side was bandaged, and machines beeped around him. Yuna was sitting beside his bed, holding his hand. She had been crying. He could tell. Her silver hair was messy, and her perfect composure was completely gone. "You're awake," she said. Relief flooded her voice. "How long was I out?" Dohan asked. 2 days, Yuna said. "The doctors say you will recover fully. The blast missed your vital organs." "Lucky," Dohan said. "Stupid," Yuna corrected. "You could have died. You have no combat training, no protection. You were just a maintenance technician. What were you thinking?" "I wasn't thinking," Dohan admitted. "I just saw him going for you, and I moved." "That is the most foolish thing I have ever heard," Yuna said. "Probably," Dohan agreed. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made his heart stop. "I have been dreaming about you." Dohan stared at her. "What?" "For the past week," Yuna said. "Every night. Your face, your voice, your stupid, brave, wonderful presence." She looked down at their joined hands. "Among my people, when someone begins appearing in your dreams, it means something. What does it mean?" Dohan asked, afraid to hope. "It means our souls are becoming intertwined," Yuna said. It means I'm falling for you, Park Dohan, against all logic, against all protocol, against everything I was taught to value." Dohan did not know what to say. So he said the only thing that felt true. "I've been falling for you since the moment you asked me about human music." Yuna laughed. That wind chime laugh, but it was mixed with tears now. "My father wants to meet you," she said. "The Emperor. He demands to know who saved his daughter's life." "Oh no," Dohan said. "Oh yes," Yuna replied. Dohan closed his eyes. He had survived an assassination attempt, only to face something far more terrifying. Meeting his alien girlfriend's father, the Emperor of Half. The galaxy. His life was getting more complicated by the minute. The Crystal Palace of Emperor Taiho was the most beautiful and terrifying place Dohan had ever seen. It rose from the surface of the Valorian throne world like a frozen mountain, its walls made of something that looked like glass but shimmered with inner light. Inside, everything was silver and blue and purple, colors that seemed to shift and change depending on the angle. Dohan stood at the entrance of the great throne room, still bandaged, still healing, still wondering how his life had led to this moment. Beside him, Princess Yuna squeezed his hand. "You will be fine," she said. "You don't know that," Dohan replied. "No," she admitted, "but I believe it anyway." The doors opened. Dohan took a deep breath and walked forward. The throne room was massive, big enough to fit a starship inside. Hundreds of Valorian nobles lined the walls, their glowing eyes fixed on the small human who dared to approach their emperor. The weight of their attention was crushing. At the far end of the room, on a throne that seemed to be carved from a single piece of crystal, Saturday Emperor Taiho. He looked like an older version of Yuna, with the same silver hair and sky-colored eyes. But where she was beautiful, he was imposing. Power radiated from him like heat from a star. Dohan walked the long path to the throne. His footsteps echoed in the silence. He focused on putting one foot in front of the other, refusing to let his legs shake. When he reached the base of the throne, he stopped. He was supposed to bow. He knew that. But something in him refused to do it. Instead, he looked up at the emperor and met his eyes. A murmur went through the crowd. No one looked at the emperor directly. It was considered disrespectful, even dangerous. Emperor Taiho's expression did not change. "You are the human who saved my daughter." "Yes," Dohan said. "I am told you are not a diplomat, not a soldier, not anyone of importance." The emperor's voice was deep and cold. "You are a maintenance technician who was assigned here by mistake." "That's correct," Dohan said. "And yet, you threw yourself in front of an assassin's weapon. You, a human with no protection, no training, no reason to risk your life." Why? Dohan thought about lying. He thought about giving some diplomatic answer about human-Valorian relations and the importance of the alliance. But he was tired of pretending to be something he was not. "Because I care about her," he said simply. "Your daughter, the princess. I care about her, and when I saw that weapon aimed at her, I didn't think about anything else. I just moved." "Many beings claim to care about my daughter," the emperor said. "Most of them would not take a weapon blast for her." "Then they don't really care," Dohan said. "Not the way I do." Another murmur from the crowd. Dohan ignored it. The emperor studied him for a long moment. His expression was impossible to read. "You saved my daughter's life," he said finally. "Name your reward." "Wealth? Status? A planet of your own?" Dohan almost laughed. A planet. This alien emperor was offering him a planet. "I don't want any of that," he said. The emperor raised an eyebrow. "Then what do you want?" Dohan glanced back at Yuna, who was standing at the edge of the throne room, watching with anxious eyes. "I want to keep being her friend," he said. "If she have me, that's all I want." Silence filled the throne room. The nobles stared at him like he had gone insane. The emperor's expression remained unreadable. Then Yuna stepped forward. "Father," she said, her voice clear and strong, "I wish to invoke the right of synchronized dreaming." The crowd gasped. Someone dropped something that clattered on the crystal floor. Even the emperor looked surprised. "Yuna," he said, "do you understand what you are asking?" "I do," she said. She walked to stand beside Dohan, taking his hand in hers. This human has been broadcasting his dreams to me for weeks. His feelings, his fears, his deepest truths, all of them laid bare without any filter. According to our laws, our souls are already intertwined. I am simply making it official. Dohan's brain struggled to process what was happening. Wait, he said. The what now? Yuna smiled at him. The rite of synchronized dreaming. It is how Valorians choose their life partners. When two people dream the same dream at the same time, it is a sign of soul compatibility. But I didn't dream the same dream as you, Dohan said, confused. I was just dreaming loudly. About you. Yes, Yuna said. And I began dreaming about you in return. Your dreams called to me, and mine answered. That is how it works. Dohan stared at her. So, when you said you were dreaming about me, I was telling you that, by Valorian law, you are already my bonded partner, Yuna said. I just needed to make it official in front of the court. You could have told me that's what was happening, Dohan exclaimed. Where would be the fun in that? Yuna replied, her eyes twinkling. The crowd was buzzing now, nobles whispering urgently to each other. This was unprecedented. A human? Bonded to a Valorian princess? It was unthinkable. Emperor Taiho raised his hand, and silence fell instantly. Daughter, he said, are you certain? This human is not one of us. He is chaotic, unpredictable, emotional beyond reason. He dreams so loudly that he disturbs the sleep of everyone around him. Yes, Yuna said. That is exactly why I want him. The emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, something changed in his expression. It took Dohan a moment to realize what it was. He was smiling. Humans, the emperor said. Chaotic, irrational, brave to the point of stupidity. They feel everything so deeply that their dreams scream across the void. They throw themselves in front of weapons for people they care about. They stand before emperors and refuse to bow. He leaned forward on his throne. Perhaps that is exactly what this empire needs. He stood up, and the entire room fell to their knees, except for Dohan, who was too stunned to move. The rite of synchronized dreaming is invoked, Emperor Taiho declared. Princess Yuna of the Valorian Empire shall be bonded to Park Dohan of Earth. The alliance between our peoples is sealed, not through treaties, but through the bond of two souls. The crowd erupted. Some were cheering, others were clearly unhappy, but the emperor had spoken, and his word was law. Dohan turned to Yuna. Did that just happen? Did we just get married? Bonded, Yuna corrected. It is similar. But yes, I was a maintenance technician 3 weeks ago, Dohan said weakly. I fix pipes. I unclog drains. Now I'm married to an alien princess. Bonded, Yuna said again. Same thing. Yuna laughed. That Wenchime laugh that had started all of this. She pulled him close and pressed her forehead to his, a Valorian gesture of deep affection. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For dreaming loudly. For being honest. For being exactly who you are, without any filter or pretense. She pulled back and looked into his eyes. You showed me that chaos can be beautiful. That vulnerability can be strength. That the messiest emotions are often the most real. Dohan did not know what to say. So he did something he had been wanting to do for weeks. He kissed her. The crowd gasped again. Public displays of affection were apparently not common among Valorians. But Dohan did not care. He was past caring about protocol or propriety or what anyone thought. When they pulled apart, Yuna was smiling. Her cheeks slightly flushed. That was very human of you, she said. Get used to it, Dohan replied. 5 years later, Part Dohan was no longer just a maintenance technician. He was the official cultural ambassador between humanity and the Valorian Empire. He had his own office, his own staff, and a title that he still could not pronounce correctly. But some things never changed. He still dreamed loudly. Every night, his sleeping mind broadcast feelings and images and half-formed thoughts across the void. And every night, Una lay beside him and listened. "You were dreaming about our first meeting again," she said one morning, as they lay in bed watching the Valorian sunrise through their window. "Was I?" Dohan asked sleepily. "You called me terrifying and beautiful," Una said. "And you said something about high fives." Dohan groaned. "I'm never going to live that down, am I?" "Never," Una agreed. It was far too entertaining. She curled closer to him, her silver hair spreading across the pillow. "I am glad you dream loudly," she said softly. "If you had been quiet like everyone else, I never would have heard you. So my complete lack of mental privacy is a good thing?" "The best thing," Una said. "It brought you to me." Dohan smiled and pulled her closer. Outside, the twin suns of Valoria rose over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Somewhere in the palace below, advisors were preparing reports and nobles were planning their political games. But in this room, there was only them. A human who dreamed too loudly and a princess who had learned to love the chaos. "Hey," Dohan said. "I love you." "I know," Una replied. "You said it in your sleep." "Several times." "Very loudly." "Of course I did." Una chuckled. That wind chime sound had still made his heart skip, and kissed his forehead. "I love you too, Park Dohan, even if you never learn to dream quietly." "I'm not going to," he warned her. "Good," she said. "I would not have it any other way." And somewhere in the space between waking and sleeping, their dreams intertwined, two souls from different worlds sharing the same vision, the same hope, the same future. Together, forever, loudly.